We will be covering easing of the waistline, constructing the waistband and the waistband facing, constructing the carriers, sewing the carriers and the waistband facing to the pants. We want to skip over about how to find the step-by-step video and written instructions on how to do commonly used sewing techniques. Go ahead and skip to the 4-minute 25-second mark. Here's a little bit about how I do my Sew With Me SewAlongs.
Techniques, I'm going to put it on the website and I will reference it in the SewAlong itself. So for example, we're working on a pair of pants that has a fly front. So when we get to that portion in the SewAlong, I'll do a little bit of it, in instructions in the SewAlong itself, but then I'm going to refer you over to the website to go ahead and look at that video, that particular video, look it over, study it, do your own sample if you want, because I'm big on that technique binder. So go ahead and and do that, and then once you get a good hang of what that technique is, then come back onto the SewAlong itself and do that particular technique with the SewAlong. So that way we both kind of benefit. You still get the instruction of the actual SewAlong step by step of how to do a particular thing, but it's less editing on my part because like I said, I'll mention it in the SewAlong itself, but then I'll refer you over to the website to actually find that particular technique and go ahead, review it, look at it. And then once you master it or enough to where even SewAlong, at the same time and install it in that particular SewAlong that you're doing at that time. So hopefully that will be okay for you, because I think it's a win-win for both. When you go over to the website, there's a nominal fee for the technique, because what I did was I searched the internet, I searched books, I searched everything in order to find the easiest, most convenient method, easiest to learn, and fastest method in order to do a technique. And I only showed you one technique. So what I did was, kind of meshed things that I found from here, there, that I thought, oh, that works good, that works good, that didn't work, and kind of just put it all together and meshed it into, my technique, which could be a combination of 2 or 3 different techniques, 2, 3, or 4 techniques all in one. So what you're getting is basically my research. Give the example of an invisible zipper. If you look for an invisible zipper online, you'll probably find 4 different ways to do an invisible zipper. Really. And even honestly, the same instructor, I find would do, and it could be just learning, they did it one time when they were first learning, and then as they progressed, they did another way, right? So, but on their website, they'll have 2 different ways of how they did an invisible zipper. So what I did was look at all of, all the different techniques, the people that I like to go to, and meshed it together and said, this is the best way in order to do that particular technique. And then I give instructions. So not only do you get the video, but you get written instructions on how to do that particular technique. But again, it's because of the time that I took to research it and to actually research it and film it, and meshing it down to get that one particular way to do something, and then actually the written instructions. So that's why each one of the techniques that I have on the website is between 2 and 3, depending on what it is. And some of them are free as well. Just wanted to let you guys know that up front, that it is a nominal fee, but it is well worth it. Okay. Enough of that boring stuff. Back to the SewAlong. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching. Our pants, we had some stitching here. So what I did was I just eased it in just a little bit so you can kind of see little puckers, whatever, right there, and then I tied it off. And I did that with both of them. And then I tried it on. You want to make sure it still fit. And what I did was just run my fingers like that, you know, while I was trying them on, to kind of distribute the ease in it. So that's what that is. And so go ahead and do that. Moving on to the waistband. So you're going to need number 4. You're going to need number 5. And I made a duplicate copy of number 4 because you had to cut 4. So I just always do duplicates when it comes to that to help me out. And that's it for the waistbands. Okay, so remember, if you had to take in anything, you're going to take that same thing in on the waistband. So this is what I took off on my side seam. All right, I marked the top with a pin. This is 5/8 of an 8-inch that I took off at the waistband area. So what I did is I left one so you could see right here. I already did these 2, cut those on the side. So let's do that. On number 4, you don't cut it on the center front, okay? You only cut it on the side seam. So cut off whatever it is if you need to on that side seam. On number 5, you have 2 side seams, okay? So you're going to cut off that amount on both side seams, okay? On both side seams for number 5. So going back to number 4, because that's center front, you don't cut that. It's only one side seam, so I'll be cutting that. So I made my mark where 5/8 of an inch is. And this pin is just telling me because it has 2 notches there, if you can see, 2 notches. Okay, so that's just letting me know to make my notches there again, is what that pin does. So go ahead, I'm going to cut that off because I need it. If you didn't have to make any adjustments, you can skip that part. All right, and then I'm just going to cut my 2 notches back. All right, so your waistband pieces are now prepped. All right, so what you want to do is we're going to do right sides together. So get out your number 5. So one is a waistband, one is a waistband facing, okay? So we're going to do right sides together. So basically get one out of each. And you're going to match up the side seams. All right. Alrighty. So just so when you're done, it should look like a smile. Okay. So on both ends, just match up the side seams, and you should have also marked on your little scrap here what you sewed your side seam at. I sewed mine at a 1/4 inch. I thought I was going to do a 1/2 inch, but I did a 1/4 inch just to give me some more room. So I sewed mine at a 1/4 inch. So you want to sew your side seams here at whatever it is you indicated. Okay, so go ahead and prep the other one the same way. All right, you should have 2 smiley faces now. One will be your waistband, the other one will be your waistband facing. Doesn't matter which one. Make sure to press your seams. So remember, press them flat and then press them open. Okay, you do not have to finish them because they will be enclosed. Okay, but just press your seams. Always when you sew a seam, you press it. Remember that. All right, so just pick one. So which one that you're going to pick is going to be your waistband facing, okay? And what you want to do is on the longer edge, the bottom of the smile, I guess you should say, the bottom edge, you want to finish that because that's going to be your waistband facing, okay? So go ahead and finish that in whatever method you see fit, serge or a zigzag, and come back.
All right, so you should have finished the bottom edge of one of your waistband pieces. Now this becomes your waistband facing. Let's work on our carriers. All right, and you do need iron here, and I'm going to do it differently than how they have it described in the instructions. So to do a carrier, what you're going to do is first you're going to need your iron to make sure that that's on, and you're going to press it up straight in half. Okay, so just fold it in half like so, and then press it. Okay, like that. So it'll all be folded and pressed. Now once you press it, you'll have a crease line in the middle. Then you're going to take each end and meet it in the middle. Okay, like that. Give that a press all the way down. Then once you do that, you're just going to fold it over onto itself. So now it looks like that. Okay, and that is your carrier. And then on the open end, you're just going to do an edge stitch. Edge stitch is about 1/8 inch away from the edge, all the way down. And then I think they say to cut it. What do you cut it at? Into 4 sections each. So it says 4, each 2 1/4 inch long. And they said they allowed for extra. So let's do 3 1/2. Cuts of 3 1/2, as we only need 4. And it'll still be extra even with the 3 1/2. So let's cut 3 1/2. Right there. We got 5. Okay, so if you want to put an extra one on there for security, you're okay to do so. All right, so let's see. So they have you put the carriers on the waistband itself. I don't do it that way, so I'm going to deviate from the instructions again. All right, so typically, what do you see? You just have a waistband, a carrier on the back, right? So what you want to do is you want to place the carrier at the top, like that, and you can pin it to keep it in place for right now. And all you're going to do is when you get to the sewing machine, you're going to tack it down in place, across, just tack it. We have 2 more because we cut an additional 1, and so I like to have them on the side seam, right? So I'll just put them on the side seam. There. And 1 right there, y'all. So what you want to do is go to your machine and tack these down, okay? So you don't have to worry about pins. And then you're going to take a non-finished at the bottom waistband, and it's going to be right sides together, and you just start it off with the smiley face, okay? And what you're going to do now is just make it a frown, okay? And just for ease sake, let's find the center here of this back. Just place a pin. So that's how you can sew the back. All right, so once you tacked it down, you are going to put your waistband on. Again, it is frown side, frown side, okay? Right sides together. Here you're gonna be matching, I'm just gonna sew mine all at one time. matching the center back there. Do a pin, and that is your waistband. So go ahead and sew that at whatever seam allowance. I'm going to do mine at a 1/2 inch, and I do a 1/2 inch because I like a larger waistband. But commercial patterns, again, it's 5/8, but I'm doing a half an inch so I can have a wider waistband. And periodically as you sew, you know, especially right here, you may have to sew and kind of stretch it to make sure to keep both layers flush with one another. And periodically look and make sure, you know, underneath you may have to, you know, look underneath and may have to flatten out as you sew, because you don't want any ripples or pleats or anything like that to form underneath. And then again, sometimes when you're sewing, as you sew, you may have to move this fabric down here, you know, one way or the other, because what you're sewing up here, you want this to be flat. Okay, so back from the sewing machine and installing the waistband and the carriers. Okay, at this point, not sure if the instructions here tell you to, but most of them do tell you to trim down the seam allowance to about a quarter inch. But sometimes I don't. Because sometimes I like the extra, what do you call it, stability or the structure that this gives you, having the excess there. So it's up to you whether or not you want to trim it down by half or to a quarter inch. But I most definitely will, at this point, I want you to trim off your zipper, okay, the excess of your zipper. You no longer need it, and because you sewed it, it is secured in place. So you can use your zipper. All right, so at this point, flip your waistband up so you can see it, take a look at it, make sure that it looks nice the way you want it to look. Need to make any changes. Those are the little ease stitch gathering. I like the way that looks. My carriers, yeah, you can have it. My carriers look nice. Flip it over to the back. So the one in the back, and the waistband looks nice and even there. You see no puckers or anything, so that looks nice. So I'm happy with the waistband. So we can continue. So now using the waistband facing, we left off with attaching the facing to the waistband. Sew it at whatever seam allowance you have. Mine was a 1/2 inch again because I like the wider waistband. Okay, and so when you come down to the extension portions, okay, so one is done at 5/8, okay, or whatever it is that's even with either, if you have an extension, even with that extension, or just over the zipper if you did not do an extension, okay, there, because when you turn it, you just want it to be flush with whatever. So this is flush with the guard, the zipper guard, or it can be flush with the zipper, so whatever which method you decided to do. So that's that in. So this side has like a flap extension over, kind of extends over the other portion. So you know, you're basically sewing an L. So you want to, again, line it up to the fly here. Let me see if I get that out the way. So you're lining it up with the fly. So the fly, so you're lining where you're going to start your sewing at. And I started it right, my finger out the way. I started it right here because that's in line with the fly. So I started it right there, and I sewed down and then pivoted and sewed up. And so this would look, I have to poke out the corners more, but you get the gist of how this will look, you know, and extends beyond the fly. Let's let it down so you can see. So that's the fly, and it extends beyond the fly. Once you do the sewing, you want to trim the seam allowance down to about half, and then you want to trim the corners. And then from that point on, you can either slip stitch in the ditch, or, you know me, I don't stitch in the ditch. What I do is, since I finished my raw edge, and that's the other thing, I should have said that's my method. You can either finish the raw edge and leave it as so, or you can tuck it under so it'll look like that, like a traditional waistband, and stitch in the ditch. And when you stitch in the ditch here, you'll catch the waistband like that. Okay, either method is fine. I just avoid all that hassle. But you know, some people like that look. It's fine. So you can do it either way. I will be doing it this way, and what I do is I stitch 1/8 inch, so I edge stitch basically from the seam on the waistband 1/8 inch away from that seam line, and you know, of course, that secures it on that side. Ended at putting the facing down and either doing a stitch in a ditch, or like I did, an edge stitching. So which one you want to do. So the waistband is finished, and the carriers are on. All right, and that's the way that front looks. Very nice with a little bit of the gathers on there, or E-stitching, I should say, rather. So that looks very nice. Thanks everybody for watching. Until next time, happy sewing.